Well, today we went to Pella to attend the latest entry in the Family Leaders Presidential Lecture Series, and this month's guest was none other than former Georgia businessman turned Tea Party activist turned presidential candidate Herman Cain. Herman Cain's somebody that's been really surging in polls over the last couple of weeks, especially since his performance in the first GOP presidential debate in South Carolina a few weeks ago. And watching him in Pella today, it's easy to see why. He is simply the most charming presidential candidate the Republicans have running this year. He's probably the most charming presidential candidate the Republicans have had running in the last several election cycles. And likability does, I think, count for something. Now, in terms of his worldview and where he comes down on the issues, Herman Cain gave several answers today that were a mixture of disappointing, bewildering, and appalling. But we'll address that in a future podcast here in the next day or so here at stevedeace.com. For now, let's just discuss the reaction that the people had to him. Now, as someone who's sort of an infiltrator of the private roundtables with these presidential candidates, you know, what is said on the mile is supposed to stay on the mile. I'm sworn to secrecy. I'm not supposed to talk any specifics about what goes on in there. In general, though, I will say this. Of all the months I've been in there, and I've been in there every month except one with Rick Santorum a month ago, I just was running a little bit late, my bad. I've seen every other candidate, however, that's come through Pella and had a chance to meet this private roundtable. And by far, Herman Cain had the warmest reception. By far, he had the most heads nodding as he spoke. His approach is a little bit like, remember the movie Dave with Kevin Kline? You know, very laid back. When he gave his address, when he talks, he takes the coat off. He doesn't really give a speech. He doesn't come across as the stereotypical presidential candidate. It's very informal. It's a little bit like he's warming up a studio audience for Oprah or for Ellen. And that really seemed to play well with this crowd. One thing I noticed in the room, both in the roundtable and then also in the lecture hall when he spoke, is that Herman Cain has something going for him that if you can get this going for you in life, it makes things a lot easier. And that's when the people you're either trying to serve or work for, they're rooting for you. They want to see you succeed. They empathize with you. He certainly had that going for him today in Pella. And I think that could go a long way towards making him the surprise of the Iowa caucuses. Unless, of course, one of his campaign rivals exploits some of the weaknesses and the shallowness in Herman Cain's worldview, which we'll talk about here soon at stevedeace.com. Thanks for joining us today. If you want to contact me, Steve at stevedeace.com is how you can find me via email. Follow me on Facebook at Steve and Deace, or on Twitter at Steve_Deace. God bless.